Hello ladies and gentlemen, in today's video I want to talk about which character I want to see come back the most into the golden token shop. Right now, as you guys may know, it is now basically confirmed with the recent addition of Topaz to the golden token shop, which is the currency we get, by the way, on some very special occasions we can use to exchange for 5 stars. We got Topaz, right? So this was a sign that they actually are looking towards adding more characters into this shop in the future. However, Topaz, right, like, let's be honest, this is probably one of the worst people to put in there, mainly because there's two 4-star alternatives to Topaz that usually actually commonly outperform her in a face out team, right? So let's be honest, nobody's gripping their toes in excitement over Topaz. She's pretty dated at this point unless they buff her. So I was thinking about which character I want to see added to this shop the most. And I think now for sure, more than ever, it makes the most sense to add Kafka, right? Now, I understand why they may be afraid to add Kafka. However, in my opinion, they win at the end of the day. If you add Kafka to the shop, and people are able to get Kafka for free from the golden token, we'll probably get no matter what every single anniversary, then people will feel much more incentivized to maybe pick up a Heistlands and pick up a buffed Black Swan, right? Now, I've heard some other people say, oh, maybe it's buff Black Swan that goes into the token shop. However, I don't think so, especially because Black Swan just got buffed. Just knowing Hoyo's predatory shit, they'd probably prefer to milk a rerun off of Swan and then move her to the token shop in the future. However, Kafka already had her rerun with Heistlands when she did get buffed, meaning she fits this criteria of where Hoyo can go, you know what, let's just add her to the shop since we already sold her on a rerun banner to people, right? And this would be absolutely amazing. Dot is one of the best teams in the entirety of the game, especially now with this Black Swan buff. But also on top of this, if you get a free Kafka, really the only thing you probably need to clear endgame content, if that is your only goal, is Heistlands herself. However, on top of this, unlike a lot of DPSs these days, where we're used to E2s being the biggest jump in, team performance, on the Dot team, it's mainly their E1s, right? And Kafka, in fact, doesn't even want her signature anymore now that she's buffed, and actually prefers to use one of the other Nihility Lycons that I actually forgot the name of, right? I'm a tourist in HSR now, so I can't remember everything off the top of my head anymore. So, you don't need a Lycon on Kafka, you get a Swan for getting Kafka free with the golden token, and now you have a Dot team that can clear endgame. Their E1s are incredibly strong, especially Heistlands, towards buffing the entire team. If I remember correctly, it's like a 70 to 80% buff, right? And on top of this, the Lycon for Heistlands is also a pretty good investment, right? So you get an E1 Heistlands or an E1 S1 Heistlands, and now you're mowing through endgame content. However, it doesn't just stop there. There's also E1 Kafka. There's also E1 Swan. I mean, the early investment on this team, without needing to go into E2s, is some of the best in the entirety of the game, which also means people are able to get much more longevity out of these characters. So my number one contender, the character I want the most to be added into the token shop next, is 100% Kafka, because then newer players, older players, all you have to do is invest a little into a Heistlands and bam, you're good to go. And there's even the possibility, I don't think this is going to be the case, right? There is a possibility that Nihilux, just off her name, she's one of the dripped characters for Plan Arcadia, could be another buff to Dot. Now, if you've seen some of my videos prior, some of my streams, you already know what I think about Nihilux. I don't think it makes sense to make another buff for the Dot team, because if they do that, I genuinely think at this point they'd be the strongest team from Amphorius, right? And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, you know, Dot havers would obviously love that. I'm just saying that doesn't really follow this game's pattern recognition. And what is much more likely, in my opinion, is that Nihilux would be a buff towards Acheron. I'm not saying she can't be an indirect buff to possibly Dot. However, I just don't think she'd be targeted towards that. I think it's much more so an Acheron buff, similar to what Dahlia is for Firefly, right? However, nonetheless, if I'm wrong, and maybe they do make Nihilux targeted towards Dot, I mean, holy shit, it genuinely might be one of, if not the best, limited team comps to invest into in the entirety of the game if they were to ever put Kafka in that Golden Companion shop. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Which characters do you want to see added to the Golden Companion shop more? I think a lot of people, you know, they have differentiating opinions. Maybe they want like a buff deal to be added to the Golden Shop. Obviously, there's Robin. A lot of people like that E1. I'm sure a lot of other people may say Sunday, right? I think that one's going to take a while before it's added, but I don't know. Given how insanely they buff Sparkle, Sunday has now lost a lot of value, and I'd say it wouldn't even be a stretch to put his ass in there anymore, because I mean, Ruan Mei is there, right? Like, if we're talking about characters without any best in slots but they're extremely valuable as generalists, Ruan Mei fits this exact same thing. So it's not like they haven't put a character in that same archetype of value before, right? Love you all. Hope you have a great day. Hope you have a great night. Peace out.